Your mom died in the Harley, and I'm sorry, sorry, not sorry. Ooh, yeah. And now she's gone, yeah. And now she's gone. And now she's gone. Oh, yeah. Your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. Oh, your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. And I'm sorry, sorry, not sorry. Ooh, yeah. Your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. Oh, your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. Your mom died in the Harley, and I'm sorry, sorry, not sorry. Ooh, yeah. And now she's gone, yeah. And now she's gone. And now she's gone. Oh, yeah. Your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. Oh, your mom died in the Harley, in the Harley. Your mom died in the
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm your host, Drake Maverick, and you are watching the Midnight Rebellion podcast. I know that timer did not say that we were all the way done, but that's okay. Nonetheless, we are going to jump right into it. So, sorry, I'm looking around and everything. We are going to be talking about the Epstein file release and the DOJ's complete and utter failure to bring a release that actually followed the bill that was signed into law, the Epstein Transparency Act that was signed into law on the 19th of last month. So this is very interesting. Just give me a second. I'm pretty new to this, so I want to go ahead and get my chat pulled up and make sure that anyone who joins, I can actually see what they're talking about. So let me go ahead and grab my chat doc. There we go. All right, it looks like I am here. Cool. I can now view my chats and everything is good. So I just wanted to let you guys know I am almost done getting my setup complete here to stream. I finally have some better lighting, something to light up my face and just kind of blend in with my background. But also I'm looking into getting a few more lights just so that everything just looks really smooth. It's not perfect yet, but it's very close. And within the next few weeks here, it'll be perfect and everything will work out great. But I hope you guys still like it. It still looks 10 times better than it did yesterday. And I hope you guys really like that. So nonetheless, we're going to jump right in because let me go ahead and pause this. I don't know why YouTube does this. It's very frustrating, but we're going to go ahead and do something a little bit different today. Instead of me being the subject of the videos we're going to watch, I'm just going to show a full screen view of some of the videos that we're watching, just for ease of, ability to actually see it. I'm not going to put myself in the corner. I'm just going to show the video in full screen and then exit out when I'm ready to talk again. So those of you who don't know, I actually went semi-viral last night. I came up with a joke while I was laying in bed because I was getting up to date with all this new news following the Epstein files and how much the redactions were coming out on basically every file. So what I did was I came up with the little phrase, Black Lives Matter. And then I was like, okay, I got to do something with this. I'm not used to doing YouTube shorts, so I'm going to try to do a YouTube short and see if that helps out. Now, this is something I thought about doing for a while now, especially because I wasn't getting a lot of traction on my main videos. Despite a number of years ago, I started live streaming. It was gaming, it wasn't politics, but nonetheless, I got 100 subscribers in the first day, my first live stream. And now that I've went this other angle with political broadcasting, I have not seen that same amount of traction. So I'm like, I'm going to post this little video. I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys, and then I'll explain how it came to be and what the results of this video were. So I just got done looking at the Epstein file release, and the only thing that really comes to mind is Black Lives Matter. So I just got... All right, so you guys see it. It was a 9-second video and just a little joke, trying to make light of this actually very serious situation going on right now because the DOJ is failing to follow the law. The Epstein Transparency Act, signed into law last month on the 19th, and on November 19th, clearly stated that the only redactions allowed in this Epstein Transparency Act is for victim, identifiable information about the victim, threats to national security, and I think there was one more, but it specifically outlined that you could not redact anything to prevent political embarrassment. So they just wanted to make sure that they weren't just randomly redacting things. And it turns out that's exactly what they were doing. If we go and look at some of the files, you'll notice that over 500 files were released with the entire page full of redactions. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So 500 full pages of just complete redactions. And then the other files that they did release, there were a lot of redactions, and people could tell basically immediately that these were not just redactions of victims' names, but also the co-conspirators or the other people that were involved in these crimes. And I just want to tell you guys that I'm utterly baffled that there weren't more people who understood that, one, these files were never going to come out. Those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested 20 years ago, okay? 20 years ago, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. I was about 11 years old when Jeffrey Epstein first got arrested. So the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, the government in general have had these files for a very long time, okay? They've had such a long time that they could have went and burned these files. They could have just deleted them, and they're just gone off the face of the earth. You're never going to see them again. Now, I think some of the files with really powerful individuals, that's the case. But as you know, the DOJ is constantly getting new information because this is an ongoing investigation. But as far as we knew, just a little recap, Kash Patel had come out in Congress and specifically said that there were no evidence whatsoever that there were any co-conspirators in this case, meaning that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked to no one. Now, this is incredible, mainly because we also heard from the DOJ and many other people, sitting presidents, that when this Epstein story first unfolded, that there were insane numbers of political, powerful individuals, also very rich technocrats, people who own billion-dollar companies and are doing extremely well, and they were implicated in these crimes. Not to mention, it wasn't that long ago where Pam Bondi straight up said that she had thousands of hours of videotapes with not only Jeffrey Epstein, but a bunch of other powerful people having sex with minors. So, my question now is, how can Kash Patel just a few months ago sit in front of Congress, lie under oath, and simply say that none of that is true? It's absolutely crazy. Now, I noticed that I don't have anyone in the chat right now, and that's okay. This is to be expected, but it would be really nice if I could get some people in here so I'm not just talking into the black void. I know there's a lot of competition, especially when it comes to political commentary, but I'm hoping that I have something to bring to the table that other people can't. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up some other videos, and we're going to look at the initial release of the Epstein files. We're going to go ahead and check out one of my favorite YouTubers, Penguin Z, which I'm sure you are all aware of. He is a pretty cool, chill guy. He covers a lot of things, and he was actually one of the people who said originally that he didn't believe the Epstein files were going to come out whatsoever, and this took me and him by complete surprise. I was not expecting this whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and listen to what Penguin has to say about this situation. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up on the screen, and I'll see you guys in a second.
That the government also tried to say aren't real are actually a huge hoax and you're an idiot if you believe in them. They're like the tooth fairy or something, no such thing. Oh, well, here's those Epstein files that we said not long ago weren't real, by the way. Finally, all of the information on all of these evil pedophiles right here at our fingertips. We get one sentence and then pretty much everything else redacted. And this isn't some isolated incident where I'm cherry picking shit. The bulk of these files are heavily redacted, and heavily doesn't even do it justice. It's so beyond that. Like, it is redacted to a comical degree where it would be laughable if it wasn't just so blatantly evil. Like, look at the thumbnail here. You could close your eyes and see the same thing that these files show you, which is just nothing. Darkness. I always said if they do release it, it'll probably be heavily redacted. I didn't even expect it to be this extreme. This is crazy. They don't even let like a couple of like rogue words fly, like random like the or and. It's all just blacked out emptiness. They released hundreds of pages of it's unfucking believable. Yeah, we've really got these evil pedophiles on the ropes now that the most transparent administration in history has dropped these puppies fresh on our laps here. Look at this. Wow. We've really got them now. We've got them cornered. Surely they'll be held accountable with this out there.
Talk about blacking out. I don't know if I can get a close-up of my phone. This is one of the the documents that the Justice Department released. It's 100 pages.
Right.
This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see. It's all black. It's just 100 pages of redaction. That's the transparency we're getting here.
Right. And I'll point to...
This is like the LaCroix of Epstein files, where it's the idea of the files themselves, not actually providing anything. Imagine scrolling through those 100 pages of just pure void emptiness. What the fuck? That is absurd. Now, it's not just these empty files that they plopped out there in the open. They did also provide a lot of new photos that show people like Bill Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, as well as like Chris Tucker, even Michael Jackson. Like, there were a large amount of
documents, we were just shocked. Documents totally redacted. None of the key things actually released. The draft indictment, the prosecution memo, those documents that would show who were the other rich and powerful men who abused these young girls or covered it up. None of the files on the computers of Epstein released that would actually implicate the other people. And, you know, the country's asking, why are you protecting these folks? What are you hiding? Massey and I are ready. We're drafting articles of impeachment as we speak about Pam Bondi and Blanchard. We're not going to drop them right away. They're saying they're going to keep producing things until the end of the year, but we're ready to use them. And we're talking to survivors about showing up again at the Capitol. We're going to continue the fight. When we saw those documents, we were just shocked. Documents totally.
All right, guys, sorry about that. I think, honestly, I just ranted for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure that my microphone was off, so that would really suck if that was the case. Hopefully, I just bumped the button here, but I was basically talking about how Republicans are the only free thinkers in the market because if you look at it, the MAGA party is split right now because they know that Trump is not doing what he promised. He's not doing nearly what he promised, and he's actually doing things that he promised against, like getting into additional wars. So all I want to say is that they are now drafting articles of impeachment against the DOJ because she is failing to comply with the Epstein Transparency Act signed into law on the 19th of November. And now they had only 30 days to release these 300 gigabytes of files, and they have not done that. Okay. It was supposed to release on December 19th, and they just said, you know what? We're not going to release them. What are you going to do about it? So that's really a slap in the face to all of Congress. And Pam Bondi right now is hiding behind the fact that she's saying that common law is that any attorney-client privilege trumps the bill. And because the bill doesn't specify that it supersedes common law, and not that the bill could anyways, they're basically saying that's the reason for some of their redactions. They're over-redacting and blatantly breaking the law. What's fascinating about this statement is that it is literally impossible for them to be breaking attorney-client privilege, okay? We're talking about the Deputy or the Department of Justice of the United States of America. The last time I checked, those people do not defend individuals. They only prosecute individuals. So if they don't have any clients, how could they be breaking attorney-client privilege? If anything, the fact that the government is in possession of these files proves that the attorney-client privilege was already broken when the Department of Justice got a hold of these files. So it's a complete BS argument, and there's also work product, which I'm not even sure what that means, but work product something, and that's another reason why they are redacting files. But none of it makes sense because none of these individuals work for the DOJ. None of these individuals are being represented by the DOJ. So that is just a misnomer, okay? There is no credibility to that statement whatsoever. They're just saying that regardless if it's the law, we are not going to release the documents, okay? That is plain and simple, as easy as you could make it. They're just not going to follow the law, and it's really unfortunate, but I could have told you this was going to happen from the get-go. So we're going to go ahead and look at something else where this is actually where the story gets very interesting, okay? If you guys haven't been following along, there has been some breaking news developments that have happened over last night and today that were actually going to blow your mind. The DOJ made a huge mistake last night, and people found it almost immediately, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble, especially Kash Patel. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. Remember to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content and want to see more of it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized.
So I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's sick story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." The second document is entitled What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections. The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official, CIA Chief. And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former prime minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of two different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice and FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed
about that. I got to stop doing that. So basically, we're going to jump right back in. And as you can see, Republican Senate member Massey is asking Kash Patel if he knows the names of some of these prosecutors who, or I shouldn't say prosecutors, but some of these individuals who were involved in raping of these minors, and how these victims have come into court and actually named some of the perpetrators. And Kash Patel is saying that he's not in the business of naming victims, which makes really no sense whatsoever. But Massey also asked him a very important question is, have you read those documents? And he says that he has not. Basically, he said that the FBI has read those documents. So Massey's then asking him, are those documents in the FBI's possession? And Kash Patel is forced to say that yes, they are. But he's also saying something very interesting, and something that we're going to see him say in the future, and that is that under 2 federal courts, it's actually 3 federal courts across 3 separate administrations have ruled that that information is classified. So, one, I would like to know who these federal courts are, like who are the judges in these federal courts, and who is covering up to protect some of these pedophiles. Because at the end of the day, I believe, honestly, that Kash Patel wants to release the names of some of these individuals, but is literally by law unable to, because the federal laws have prevented him from doing so. And you can clearly see in his demeanor when he's talking about this that he feels very uncomfortable, because these individuals, I think personally that these members of Congress already know this information, okay? They have access to all this information. They know that it was struck down in a federal court, and that Kash Patel and also anybody else in the FBI is unable to name the actual pedophiles that were raping these young girls. And I'm sorry to be vulgar, but, we're dealing with a very vulgar case right now. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward and look at another case where Kash Patel is being questioned by one of my favorite members of Congress. So we're going to go ahead, jump right in there, and tell me if you guys like me in the corner when these videos are playing. So at least you know that I'm the one reacting to these videos.
I want to ask you about the Epstein files. Have you seen the Epstein files?
I have not reviewed the entirety of it myself, but a good amount.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Epstein trafficked young women, including, in some instances, minors, for sex to himself?
That was specifically the allegations in the 2018 indictment in the Southern District of New York.
Okay. Who else did he traffic these young women to?
In terms of what the investigation, again, going back to 2008, Mr. Acosta, who limited the investigation and limited the search warrants and limited the parameters of the investigation, the only thing we are able to speak to publicly, because he was given a non-prosecution agreement by Mr. Acosta, is that first time period from, I believe, don't quote me on this, 97 to 2001-ish. And then when the Trump administration courageously reopened it.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm going to run out of time. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay. Now, President Trump has...
All right, I'm going to remember to turn my mic on. This is a pivotal moment, okay? This is a pivotal moment for Kash Patel. He is asked, and this is where my opinion changed immediately, okay? He is specifically asked, did Epstein traffic these young minor women to rape them to himself? Kash Patel answers, well, as of 2018, the court hearing of 2018, he's very specific about his choosing of words, then that is the case. And then he stops him and says that he's running out of time. in that, I mean, you guys heard it. Is that to say that he did not traffic to anyone else? And he said that there is zero credible evidence in the files that Epstein ever trafficked to anyone else but himself. Now, this is very interesting, and this is where it gets very problematic for Kash Patel, okay? Because he is saying that there is no information in the files that anyone else was involved, okay? Nobody else was involved whatsoever. And remember, he's also saying something else, which I, don't want to make light of, is that there were some shady things going on behind the scenes with these judges that limited search warrants and limited other things, other, angles of the case, so that we intentionally couldn't find more information. And he goes all the way back to 1997. This is very interesting, okay? And also, sorry, I forgot to tell you guys, let's just jump back a little bit and tell you that my post actually ended up going viral. That little short I made, over 2.1 thousand views and a few likes and some comments and maybe a subscriber or two. Not as much as I would have liked, but hopefully the fact that people had seen this content, that they're actually showed my live stream now in my videos, and they feel like clicking them and staying up to date on these things. Sorry, I meant to close that out. There's two of me talking on the screen. A lot of technical difficulties today, but I'm also trying out a lot of new things, so please bear with me. So, what's very interesting about this is that Kash Patel is saying that if there was any credible information that anyone else was trafficked to by Jeffrey Epstein, he would have brought the case yesterday. Okay, this is very important because I'm going to go ahead and play something for you because the DOJ made a huge mistake. Okay, basically the biggest mistake they possibly could make, and they released about 11,000 files, so these people say, and one mistake they made was that it wasn't actually searchable, right? So imagine you're on a website and it says files, first batch of files, second batch of files, okay? All the way down to number 7. But in the URL taskbar, if you typed in 8 and then hit enter, it would bring you to this 8th batch of files, which you couldn't see on the website. So it was kind of like a hidden file list. All right. A lot of people have done this. Obviously, they're going to try everything in their playbook to try and get access to these files. And it looks as if the government did not have time to redact these files. So there's a lot of new information in there that's extremely damning, especially to President Trump. It almost makes me think like someone involved in the government did this on purpose. And they have some kind of plausible deniability when it comes to the release of these files because it wasn't technically public. Somebody basically, technically hacked into it in order to get access to these files. But me, you, anyone could also do this. And basically, it makes Trump look really bad, mainly because it shows clearly that a victim named Trump and Epstein to have been raping her, okay? The guy who reported this was a limo driver. He was found dead the next year, marked as a suicide. Who would have guessed? Because this guy was driving Trump and Epstein around. Trump and Epstein were talking about this girl that they raped. The limo driver went to the court with it and basically snitched on them. And, Epstein and Trump made sure that this guy couldn't talk anymore. I imagine this information must have gotten leaked to them, and they found out who this guy was. He ended up dead a year later. What's also extremely interesting is there is the name of, I want to say it was 10 co-conspirators, meaning that there were 10 people actively involved other than Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell involved in trafficking these minors. So literally involved in trafficking them. I don't know if that means they were also involved in raping these kids. I imagine if you're a part of one, you're probably a part of the other too. but it's extremely interesting. And we're going to go ahead and look at another video by CoffeeZilla, which it says Voidzilla for some reason, but he leaked these files, and it's very interesting, very damning. And take a look and a listen to what he has to say.
Because I believe some of what we've seen directly contradicts the FBI's earlier statement that, oh, there's no evidence, or we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. That's what they told us, right? They said, we've already looked through the files. You don't need to see the files back in July. Of course, all the pressure has made them now start releasing some of this stuff. And we believe that this was slated for release, but remember, they weren't going to release all the files yet. They had to hold some back. Well, we believe that these 11,000 files are part of what they held back, because clearly they aren't out, and clearly they were ready, because a lot of these are redacted. I mean, already you can see we found several files that were, once again, over 100 pages of redacted information. So it was all ready to be released. It's unclear why it wasn't. But let me caveat before we get into the material that this is a breaking story, and as such, I'm sure there's going to be some pieces of information that we are interpreting or trying to interpret live, and because of that, I want to warn you to withhold your judgment on some of this stuff until we get more evidence. I'm sure the president's going to be asked about some of this stuff. I'm sure Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, they're going to get asked about this because it is extremely damning, I think, what we see in some of this. Specifically, I want to draw your attention immediately to the 10 co-conspirators that are mentioned in some of these emails in 2019. Now, this is just alarming stuff, because prior to this, remember that all we really had was Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. That's the only people who have ever faced any charges at all. Ghislaine Maxwell, the only one who actually faced consequences, right? But in 2019, apparently there were 10 co-conspirators. Now, the people who were sending this to and from have been blacked out, but at the bottom we see that this is the Violent Crime Section, Crimes Against Human Trafficking Unit. And we can see that of the 10 co-conspirators, 3 have been located in Florida, served grand jury subpoenas, 1 in Boston, 1 in New York City, 1 in Connecticut were served. 4 out of the 10 are outstanding with attempts having been made. What is a wealthy businessman in Ohio? A lead is being sent to CV, and the remaining 3 are currently out of pocket. This is stunning stuff. Previously, we did not know how many co-conspirators were suspected of, or I'm not aware of anything like that. And additionally, some of the details on this are revealed later, because we see this subject line. It says co-conspirators at the top, and it says blank does not need to head out. We made contact with blank last night in New York City. Blank last night in New York. Contact was made with blank, blank, and blank. By the way, I love how these potential co-conspirators are people who are being blacked out. Like, why? I thought the whole point of this was you couldn't redact people for personal information reasons or for public embarrassment. You could only redact on the basis of it being a victim. And I'm not sure how these people could possibly be victims here.
Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not.
But anyways, you can see that it says attempts were made to blank and Brunel. That's Jean-Luc Brunel, the famous who's now dead. Blank is confirmed to live in New York, was away for the holiday weekend. We did not have a good address, but an attempt was made in New York. Attempts are made to Maxwell today. Blank, you get it. Like, it's all the people they suspected this whole time are redacted, of course. And then they say, I do not know about Ohio contacting Wexner. Now, that's a reference to Les Wexner, the former CEO of Victoria's Secret. This is huge. We've long suspected that he was, of course, one of the co-conspirators. And obviously, the fact the FBI suspected it isn't a 100% proof confirmation. But clearly, they were serving grand jury subpoenas. I mean, that must be who they're talking about, one wealthy businessman in Ohio, because later it's confirmed by this whole idea of Ohio contacting Wexner. And you can see at the bottom, this is from the FBI New York. When you get a chance, give me an update on the status of the 10 co-conspirators. This is really bad to know that we knew as early as 2019 the right people to target, and yet our FBI, who's had evidence of this the entire time, or leads on it, has declined to prosecute, right? Because this is what the FBI now tells us. Oh, don't bother. Don't.
All right, guys, this is extremely important, and I promise I'm going to get used to hitting that microphone button when I'm ready to speak again. This is extremely important because it shows us immediately that Kash Patel was lying under oath. Okay, Kash Patel said that if he knew that there were other people involved, he would have brought the case yesterday. Well, that's obviously not true. And this 10 co-conspirator list happened in 2019. He's talking about a case in 2018, and the feds obviously have access to all this information. Clearly, this information is coming from the feds, okay? All these files are coming from the feds. So Kash Patel has access to these files, and he knows that other people were involved. Not just that, I mean, come on, guys. We all know that other people were involved. When this entire story broke out a number of years ago, at the end of Trump's first term, it had come out that he was trafficking to many oligarchs, okay? These very rich and powerful people, members of our government, okay? And this is incredibly important because it literally proves that there are co-conspirators. So when Kash Patel sat in front of Congress and blatantly lied to him and said, if I knew that anyone else was involved, I would have brought charges yesterday. Well, he was obviously lying about that. It's just not true. And that's fascinating. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. But I am going to backtrack because I think my microphone was off when I was speaking about this stuff. And don't worry, I'm going to go ahead and edit this down. But it's so funny. I was listening to Brian Tyler Cohen, which I don't know what kind of 3 first name that is, but that's weird. He was talking about how, he wishes that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was in the seat of the presidency because then he believes that the transparency would be there. And that's hilarious because Joe Biden was just president for 4 years. They've had these files the entire time that Joe Biden was the president, yet I believe, I don't know if this is true, but didn't Joe Biden release absolutely 0 files? Now, I'm not saying that's any better than Donald Trump releasing a bunch of files that are literally black, okay? And what's also very interesting about this is that all of the co-conspirators that the FBI was, thinking was involved in this, all their names are blacked out. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. How is that abiding by the Epstein Transparency Act? It's not. And this brings me to my point, okay? I don't think we're going to go until midnight. It is the holidays, and I will be off for the holidays. I'm probably not going to stream tomorrow. I'm not going to stream on Christmas Day, but I'll make up for it next week with a few extra streams. But this brings me to my point is that we are never going to see these files. Understand that we're never going to actually see these files. I was 11 years old. I'm 32 years old, almost 33. I was 11 years old when Epstein was first arrested. So the government has been in possession of these files for a very long time. And most of the incredible damning evidence against these individuals has been burned. It is gone. No one's ever going to see it. Now, granted, there's obviously still some very interesting information because, they're using this information to blackmail people. Understand that too. I think a lot of people would have wanted their information gone, but the people, whoever that group is that's in control of these documents, they're keeping these documents. They might have scrubbed their names from the documents, but everyone else's names, of course they have it. And why do you think they have it? Of course, they're going to use it to blackmail our politicians. Do you think that men and women who really want to serve as members of Congress and who love the United States are really out here taking money from a foreign nation through AIPAC? Is really fighting behalf of a foreign nation just because they're, just terrible, bad people? Of course not. Instead, what I honestly believe is that there's no politician who's allowed to become a politician without them having dirt on them. Because that's the way you can control somebody. One thing's for certain, you don't want your name coming out that you were a notorious pedophile, okay? Nobody wants that. Yet, for some reason, this is what's happening. And this is incredibly more damning when you realize that there is a few videos, going around that some of the redactions were made in, I think it's whatever the PDF file viewer is, Adobe Acrobat, is where they were redacting some of this information. So somebody found out that with some of these files, you can literally just copy and paste the redactions. And I'll go ahead and find a video for you now so you can see this for yourself. But you can literally just copy and paste the contents of the file into Microsoft Word, and you will instantly see the unredacted words on the page. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and find the video right now. This has been going around like crazy. And actually, what's even crazier is that Trump's name is redacted in these files. So that brief interview that you saw in the last video with CoffeeZilla, where there's a guy in an interview with a woman, and he says, or she says, "Are you guys illegally redacting names?" She actually asks him if he's illegally redacting Trump's name from the files, and he says, "No, we're not. We're only redacting names if they break, or if they're victims' names or identifiable characteristics, or if it breaks attorney-client privilege," which we already talked about earlier. It doesn't make any sense. The Department of Justice of the United States of America does not represent clients. They only prosecute people. So there is no attorney-client privilege, ever. It just doesn't exist. The statement itself just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And like I said, if the DOJ was in possession of attorney-client privileged information between an attorney and a client, then it's already been broken, and the government having it is a sign that that attorney-client privilege was broken. So the DOJ releasing the files that they have does not break attorney-client privilege. It's very simple to understand. And work product privilege, I mean, none of it makes any sense. And that's simply because we're never going to see the files. The files are gone. Get it through your head. There's some damning information, but most of it's not going to come out. And we just need to accept that reality. But let me go ahead and find this video for you guys real quick. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you guys.
Where all the Epstein files are being held, and there's a lot of different files that have been redacted. So you can go ahead and scroll down till you get to a redacted area. Here's a redacted area right here. Guess what? If you want to look at these files, all you got to do is copy it and paste it into Microsoft Word, and guess what? All the files are unredacted. There it is. So go back to justice.org, find all those files, and start unredacting before they figure out how to stop you. I'm at justice.gov, where all the Epstein files are being held.
All right, so you guys see that for yourself. The DOJ has, or well, whoever's releasing these files, as we know, the government, the United States government, is completely incompetent for the most part. So they're releasing these files with this fatal bug, and there's a lot of problems with this, mainly because people are going to use the unredaction method to see the names of victims. And yeah, that is a problem. We don't want to release victims' names. But honestly, at this point, if releasing the victims' names means that nothing comes out redacted, we'll finally get the truth. And I'm sorry, victims, I know you've been through a lot, but I think it's a little bit more important to know if some of the powerful men and women that are supposed to be fighting on behalf of the United States citizens, like me and you, are actively engaged in a pedophile ring. I think that's very important information for us to have. It's the craziest thing I've ever lived through in my life. But breaking news is breaking constantly. If you guys are not on X, I suggest you get on X, because most of this breaking information is out on X before it's out anywhere else. And people are saying that Trump's name is being shown as redacted a lot of times. And there is credible information that has come out. Trust me on this. Go ahead and look for yourself. There is credible information that Trump was actively involved in raping minors. And actually, what's funny is I told my wife this a long time ago. I said that, believe it or not, most of these powerful individuals with a ton of money and who are just born with a ton of money, those people have a God complex. They think they can do whatever they want. And most of these people are very dangerous and disgusting. Money makes you do crazy things. These people feel like they're untouchable. So do I think that Trump a literal billionaire who inherited hundreds of millions of dollars, is involved? Yeah, I think he's involved of a whole lot more. I'm not going to say what he's involved in because I don't know for a fact. I'm not going to tell you guys that. But I know he's involved in a lot of shady business practices that have been committed over the years. And guess what? I still voted for Donald Trump. Why? Because the alternative was to vote for someone who was actively going to destroy my own self-interests as a white, straight male in getting a job, buying a house, just living, existing, without having to pay reparations to a people that my ancestors did not enslave. It's absolutely nuts. And we're witnessing right now that the right wing is the only sensible party in the United States, right? Because the right wing is actively speaking up against Donald Trump. When have you seen liberals actively speak out against Joe Biden? And like I said, there was a number of things you could have spoke out about. One being that Joe Biden had access to all of these files himself and still didn't release anything. Not a single file came out under Joe Biden's presidency. So why do you think if Kamala Harris got into office, she was suddenly going to be the most transparent president ever? It was just never going to happen. Now, I did talk with my wife, and she believes that Trump has a card up his sleeve and that, maybe he knows something that we don't know, and that could be true. But I'm telling you right now, it looks really bad for President Trump. I also want to bring it to your attention that it's our right as citizens of the United States that if our government stops acting on behalf of our own interests and they're trying to silence us or do things that are directly against the Constitution, it is our right to overthrow that government and start a new one. And let me tell you, it's time. We need to band together as American citizens and make sure that this corrupt government doesn't exist anymore. Okay? It's not working out. There is literally rot from the core of this government all the way out. From the smallest levels of government, like your local senators and mayors, and all the way up to the President of the United States, the rot runs deep. Everyone knows we're controlled by Israel. Everyone knows this. Netanyahu is literally coming out and saying, who cares what Trump says? I'm going to do whatever I want to do anyways. And we're sending him billions of dollars and actually hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 10 years. And they're trying to get the money sooner because they know in the next election, the American people are not going to vote someone into office who is pro-Israel. So this is all the information I have right now. I believe, let me see if I have anything else to talk to you guys about today, but I believe that's everything. But I want to tell you guys that you can fight back. You don't have to get your guns and storm the White House, and honestly, I prefer that you don't. But everyone can stop paying their taxes. Hypothetically, you could stop paying your taxes. And I saw a lot of people asking this question, like, how do you even do that? It just comes out automatically. Well, when you go to fill out your forms at your job, you can file exempt. You can mark you're exempt from taxes. And employers will not take out taxes out of your paycheck. This is something that any American can do. You can go to your employer tomorrow and say that you need to make some changes to your tax form and file exempt. The only reason I know this is because we accidentally did that this year, and we're going to have to pay for that. But now that all this is going on, do you really want to fund a government who's going to give billions of dollars to Israel to commit a genocide? Are you really going to fund a government who is actively protecting pedophiles? I think not. I definitely don't. And it's going to suck. I mean, if we are going to tear this government down and start over, it's going to be some really hard times. People will die. Things will change drastically, and it will be a very scary world. But what's the alternative? Because at the rate we're going, we are completely controlled. Our government is infiltrated, and our country has been infiltrated by immigrants. there's really no hope for us. And if we keep going along this track, it's only going to get worse and worse until we live in a technocracy, which is coming very soon. So we, the people, have to stand up for what our ancestors fought for and make sure that this government knows they're not going to get away with it. And we need to stop funding this because, believe it or not, the government cannot operate without the money from the men and women that are working in the United States. And believe me, if enough millions of people decide to file exempt on their taxes, the government will feel that, and they will have to surrender. And this is why Trump is trying to do everything he can to eliminate the income tax and eliminate certain taxes because he knows that this is coming. They are blatantly breaking the law and not releasing all the Epstein files. Okay? They are blatantly breaking the law. And they don't care. They're citing laws that don't even make any sense, and they think that you're retarded. But they're about to find out a harsh reality. And actually, if you go on X right now, you will see there is a movement going on where people are not paying their taxes, or they are sending their tax forms in at the end of the year and completely redacting all the critical information. And honestly, that's the only solution I can think of. We can do something. We should do something. And I hope you guys all step up to the plate and decide to do something, because the fate of our country, of your children and your children's children, is relying on you. You need to make the change. And if that means to not pay your taxes, I mean, think about it. You're going to be much happier. You're going to have much more money. The government is basically robbing us blind with taxes anyways. We can start this government from the ground up and make sure that the government works for the people and that foreign interests are never involved in our own politics. There are sitting members of Congress who have vowed to protect Israel, and that is the sole reason they even ran for Congress. We can stop that from happening. The United States of America is a very powerful nation, the most powerful nation. We have nuclear weapons, so don't get scared that all these other nations will turn on us, because we have the ability to literally destroy and flatten every nation in the world. We have a gun pointed at the head of every single nation on earth, and they wouldn't dare cross that line because they would pay the consequences, and nobody wants to blow up the earth. So remember that when they try to fearmonger you into not doing what the American people need to do. We need to band together, we need to get organized, and we need to stop funding this genocidal and illegal government that is going on right now. Donald Trump is not going to save you. As much as he might try and play mind games with you and tell you that he's for the people, we all know that's not true. And the Democrats, well, they're just plain old silly. We can't elect them into office again. We need to do something. And this is the only way I can think of to really stick it to them. We can rebuild. We have the Declaration of Independence. We have the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's the only two articles we need to rebuild the United States from the ground up. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is your host, Drake Maverick, and you are watching the Midnight Rebellion podcast. Be sure to tune in after the holidays, and I'm going to have some exciting new stuff for me to talk about. Okay? Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. I've been running around all day, so I apologize for that, and I'll see you guys next time.